In the winter of 1692, a small Puritan village of Salem, Massachusetts, a spark of fear ignited a firestorm that would consume lives and leave a scar on history. The Salem Witch Trials, a tragic chapter of mass hysteria, unfolded in a community gripped by superstition, religion, paranoia. 25 people were killed from a single village. Her laws and codes are based on superstition. This is the true history of how fear turned neighbor against neighbor and how it all began. Salem Village, now part of Danvers, Massachusetts, was a Puritan community in the late 17th century, characterized by strict religious beliefs and a hierarchical social structure. Puritans believed in the literal existence of witches, as supported by biblical injunctions like Exodus 22:18, where it's written, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," which is actually a commandment from the Old Testament in the Hebrew Bible. It prohibits the practice of witchcraft or sorcery, instructing that any person who practices it should not be allowed to live. And the interesting thing is, these Puritans fled inland seeking religious freedom. This religious framework, combined with economic rivalries between Salem village and the more prosperous Salem town, created a volatile environment rife for conflict. The wealthier families in the east clashed with poorer farmers in the west. Land disputes, economic struggles, and resentment simmered. And to this, a recent smallpox outbreak also. At the same time, there was ongoing King William's War between English and French colonists in North America, with significant clashes against Native Americans. These clashes were a continuation of pre-war tensions and a result of both European and indigenous groups vying for control of land and resources. These conflicts are mostly fueled by the desire of settlers and governments for Native American lands, so at the moment the village was a powder case of annexation. It only needed a spark. That spark came in January 1692 in the home of Reverend Samuel Paris, when 9-year-old daughter Elizabeth Betty and her 11-year-old cousin Abigail Williams exhibited strange behaviors, including fits, screaming, and contortions. The local physician, William Griggs, was unable to find a medical cause and diagnosed them as bewitched, and surprisingly, the diagnosis was consistent with Puritan beliefs only. Soon, other girls in the village began showing similar symptoms and showing community fear. Some of them are Anne Putnam Jr., 12, Mark Lewis, 17, Elizabeth Howard, 17, Mary Walcott, and Mary Warren. On February 29, the three women were arrested on the accusation of affected girls, and accused were brought before Magistrate Jonathan Corwin and John Hathaway. One of them is Tituba, a Caribbean slave in the Paris household. Another one is Sarah Good, a homeless beggar. And the last one, Sarah Osborne, a poor elderly woman. During the interrogation, the girls displayed dramatic symptoms, spasms, contortions, and screams whenever the accused looked at them. It's a phenomenon known as spectral evidence. Basically, in short, it is popular evidence of proving someone as a witch. Under interrogation, Tituba the first confessed to witchcraft on March 1692, claiming she had been visited by the devil and naming other witches, including a tall and dark man. Other two women were denied the charge but were jailed, setting a precedent for further accusation. Then, this confusion fueled panic as villagers began to see witches everywhere. The accusations were not random. They often targeted social outcasts, those who did not fit the Puritan mold or those who fought in personal grudges. Women, especially those without male protection, were most vulnerable. Even respected church members like Martha Corey and Rebecca Nars were accused, as well as Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter Dorothy, highlighting the indiscriminate nature of the accusations. The rapid spread of accusations overwhelmed the local justice system, which prompted Governor William Phips to establish the Court of Fire and Terminal in May 1692 to handle witchcraft cases in Suffolk, Essex, and Middlesex counties. The court relied heavily on spectral evidence despite its controversial nature. This evidence, based on the afflicted girls' claims of seeing the accused specters tormenting them, was pivotal in conviction but lacked tangible proof. The first execution occurred on June 10 when Bridget Bishop was hanged at Gallows Hill in Salem just because she was a independent, famous woman, and many accused her. It set the tone for subsequent proceedings, with the court convicting and executing 5 more in July, 5 in August, and 8 in September, totaling 19 hangings. Additionally, by September 1692, over 200 people had been accused, with at least 5 dying in disease-ridden jails. One of the notable victims included George Burroughs, a former minister accused of leading the witches, whose execution caused on his due to his repression for beauty. If you don't know pity, it's actually a way of behaving that shows a deep respect for God and religion. The accusation spread beyond Salem villages to nearby towns like Andover and Ipswich. Over 200 people are accused, and fear tore families apart. Neighbors testified against neighbors, and even husband and children are implicated. The trials exposed deep-seated grudges, with some using accusation to settle old scores over land or status. By September 1692, public opinion began to turn against the trials. Driven by influential critics that period who denounced spectral evidence as unreliable. Perhaps in October, Governor Phips took control of the situation and dissolved the Court of Fire and Terminal, and mandated that the successor court, the Superior Court of Judicature, and disregard spectral evidence. This shift led to release of those awaiting trial and pardons for those awaiting execution, effectively ending the trials by May 1693, when Phips pardoned and released all remaining prisoners, with witchcraft changes. In the following year, some accusers and judges expressed regret. In 1692, a day of fasting and repentance was declared. Decades later, in 1711, Massachusetts passed legislation to restore the good names of condemned and prohibited financial restrictions to their heirs. But the scars of 1692 lingered, a haunting reminder of what fear and fanaticism can do. In modern times, efforts to address historical wrong continued, with Elizabeth Johnson Jr., the last convicted witch, officially exonerated in July 2022, as reported by Smithsonian Magazine. A memorial dedicated on August 5, 1992 by Ellie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor, honors the victim, which is located at Salem Witch Trials Memorial. The site serves as a reminder of the importance of justice and reason, with historians continuing to study the trial to understand an issue of fear, power, and social dynamics. Some theories suggest environmental factors such as ergot poisoning from contaminated rye may have caused cold symptoms. Oh, this is speculative and lacks concessions again. Others like Norton argue the trials are linked to frontier wars, with accusation reflecting a desire to blame supernatural forces for military failures against Native Americans. Today, Salem embraces its dark history, but with a twist. The city is a hub for tourism, drawing millions to its witch trials memorials and museum. Each May As spring blooms, Salem reflects on its past through re-enactment and educational event, reminding us of the dangers of mass hysteria. The Salem Witch Trials teach us timeless lesson how fear can corrupt justice, how prejudice targets the vulnerable, and how communities can spiral into chaos. In our word of misinspiration and division, the trials are warning. Truth matters, and unchecked fear can destroy lives. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe us for more this video, share and like this video.